Today we have a very special guest. Coach Doug Schwab is with us. Coach Schwab is UNI's head wrestling coach. He was an Iowa High School state champion for Osage. Then he went on to be a three-time All-American and an NCAA champion at the University of Iowa. In terms of coaching, spent some time as an assistant coach at Virginia Tech and Iowa before becoming the head coach at the University of Northern Iowa in 2010. So, Coach, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, fellas. Appreciate it.
You bet. Wanted to start at kind of the beginning of your wrestling life. How did you get started, and how old were you when you got on the mat?
Well, I have two older brothers, Mark and Mike, who are 10 and 12 years older than me. So I grew up. I think my mom said, I was in a wrestling room. I want to say I was born in August. So maybe November that year, I was in a wrestling room. So I grew up in a wrestling room and grew up around it. Grew up, you talked about Osage in that gym, and then both my brothers came to UNI. So spent a lot of time, in the West gym, and didn't wrestle a ton when I was a kid. I think that's changed a little bit, just the number of matches kids get. But wrestled, was around it, played a lot of different sports, but I just kind of really gravitated towards it, man. And really, as I got older, I started to really love it. And, I had two great examples, in my house that I grew up around, and it just really kind of took off from there.
So, Coach, did wrestling come naturally to you, or was it something that you had to progress, really work at? Having two great brothers wrestling in your household definitely, I'm sure, helped. But
yeah, I think with anything, there's an immense amount of work put into, to be at a high level or great at anything. There is certainly a lot of time and effort that's put into it. I don't know if natural's the word. I think that I loved it and I enjoyed it. I love that one-on-one battle, and I always felt like wrestling is, if you put more time into it and you're willing to maybe hold on a little bit longer than that other guy, I'm going to give myself the best opportunity. And I was smaller. I was a 103 pounder as a freshman, and I was probably about 103. You can be the hero being the 103 pounder. I think that's the one great thing about the sport. The opportunities that are given from where, now it's 106 to whatever, 285, or college is 125 up into 285. I don't know. I don't know if it was a natural thing, but I certainly enjoyed it, man. And I love that battle. I love being able to grab someone and, maybe beat the hell out of them, or them beat the hell out of me. But I really enjoyed that from a really young age. So I think just that took hold, man. And you guys know, once it kind of gets in your blood, you want to be around it and part of it and doing it as much as possible. And that's been since I've been young.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. So I think Jay was a pretty good wrestler. I was pretty much average, but love the sport. And now our kids, fortunately, both of our kids are having a little more success than we did, and a lot of fun watching. So that's why one of the reasons we started this podcast is because me and Jay talk about wrestling all the time, and hey, we might as well record maybe somebody will be interested in hearing who, at the very least, who we talk to. And, so we appreciate when you and other awesome, wrestling people join us and let us chat.
Well, I think, the thing that you're talking about right there is, what you get out of the sport isn't always, a gold medal, right? I mean, what you get out of it, and that's what we're trying to get our guys. You can win 4 national titles, and that's great, but it's really what you take with you beyond that. That's not going to fulfill you. You winning everything under the sun, that doesn't fulfill you. But some of these other things that are more lasting, that you're learning about yourself and that you're able to handle, through the sport and going through it. And now, like you said, you're passing on to your sons. We have a passion and love for it, and I think anyone that, like I said, that's been a part of it, they have that. So, I'm not too concerned, as far as what guys have accomplished. Because, you know, those things go to the wayside. You know, it's who you become in that process that I think is much more important, you know, and that's why you want your sons in the sport, right? I mean, that's because of who it's going to make them and how it's going to help them obviously in life down the road. But no, it's cool. And that's why my sons are in the sport too.
I totally agree. You mentioned your brothers who are obviously phenomenal athletes as well. And I know the Osage tradition, you know, that you kind of grew up in. Was there anyone in particular that you kind of modeled your style of wrestling after?
Well, both, you know, I watched both my brothers. I mean, my brother Mark, I don't know if you could do his style. I mean, he was so clean and I mean, precise and strong and explosive. And I mean, every piece of it, man, he had it all. You know, there were some guys that I really enjoyed. I just enjoyed guys that attacked, tried to score points and fought the whole time. And you know, there was a lot of guys growing up that I really enjoyed, you know, watching. Obviously, like I said, I got to have a front row seat to watching my brothers, you know, and then getting to watch a lot of you know, everyone that went through in that time. You know, I'm sitting mat side. You know, I'm sitting mat side at tournaments. I remember there's a tournament where I'm wiping my brother. It's in between periods, and I'm wiping my brother's shoulders off. You know, I mean, that was being a little kid. So it was more, I think, not maybe what singlet they were wearing. It was how they competed, and that's what attracted to me. And you know, so you know, I'll put one guy out there. You know, a guy like Mark Ironside, because when I came into Iowa, he was a guy that took me under his wing, so to speak. But then I loved how he competed and fought the whole time and scored a lot of points. And you know, to me, that's what makes wrestling fun.
You mentioned your brother Mark. Mark was a year older than I was, and I had an opportunity to meet him when we were both a couple years younger, let's say. What was it like, kind of chasing him and his accolades he had in wrestling? And then I've always heard of extreme workouts that you guys would do, like over the top crazy. I mean, like a snowstorm you ran in, or what was that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, anything. If there's a way to get better, you're going to get better. You know, I mean, if a snowstorm is going to stop you from going out and running, then, I mean, then you're going to let other things get in the way too, right? You know, but I'll tell you that, I had a big separation between my brothers, right? There's 10 and 12 years. So I think it would have been much tougher on me had it been, you know, if he was two years older than me or 3 years older than me. You know, I think it would have been much tougher on me, just from, and not that people didn't still remember, but I mean, when you have that kind of gap, I don't know if you necessarily feel like you're following up, you know. And we talked about it a lot, and I think, you know, the biggest thing is, you know, being part of our family, right, and then being proud of it, but also you got to be your own person. I can tell you, I lost my second high school match, and my brother lost one match in his career. And I remember one of the dads came up to me and was like, "Well, pressure's off. You know, you've already lost as many matches to your brother. You know, and it was the first tournament, so big deal. You know." And I think my brothers helped me a lot in not worrying about comparing, you know, to trying to win this or that. I mean, did I want to go win 4 titles? Yeah, you know, I did. You know, I wanted to do some of the things that both of my brothers did, but that separation helped me a whole lot. In that, you know, I guess I got to watch them through college. I got to watch a lot of other things, and you know, we had a lot of conversations about it. So I don't know if I ever felt. I'm sure I felt some pressure, but it was more just trying to build on our family name more than anything.
You were a 3-time state finalist in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned pressure a little bit. Thinking about, like, if you back to like your freshman year, was there a lot of pressure as an underclassman making it to the finals, or did you kind of always expect you might be there?
No, definitely expected to be there. You know, I grew up watching, you know, my brother, you know, Mark was in the finals and won as a freshman. My brother won it as a sophomore, you know, so it was just something kind of what we were around and what we expected, and something that you dreamed about and thought about for a long time. So I don't think there was ever a surprise to it. And Osage has a great history too. So you've had a lot of guys who have won and been in there. So it wasn't like it was coming out of nowhere that, people coming out of Osage or, even my family, that was something that could happen. It wasn't certainly something I thought was guaranteed, but I don't know if I don't feel like I felt any pressure. It was more attacking something. I want to go get this. I want to go win a state title. And then, obviously lost in the finals. Chase Zapital, which is that's a familiar name in the state of Iowa. He was just better than me at that time. And sometimes that happens. But felt like I had a really good freshman year, and then was certainly ready, to win the next year and, really the next 3 years. But obviously that didn't happen. I had to wait till my senior year to get it done. But no, I don't know if I really felt pressure. It was, like I said, it was more I was going after something and I was excited about it.
And I think it was 1994. Was that the year you were injured? And what happened that year? And then, how was it for you to watch that from the stands, let alone in the Grand March in Mecca where you should be?
Yeah, that was it stinks. Obviously, you get over things. It's quite a few years down the road, but it's something I can go back to, man. I can still think about sectionals, and I got hurt in that championship match, and then I tried to wrestle back and my shoulder was tore up. And then, I'm sitting and watching at the state tournament, and we had the best team in the state that year, hands down, and should have won traditional even without me, and should have won duels. And so, you're thinking about all that stuff too, because, you want to win state titles as a team, not just individually. And, we were going to do that year. Hey, I remember sitting up and watching watching guys that that you beat, and you beat handily. And we've had a lot of guys that have been there. And I guess for me, it kind of burned in my brain that, the next year when this time rolls around, I'm going to get that title, in a way. Hopefully I didn't feel sorry for myself, because, I think at times you probably do, but man, I absolutely remember. And I remember walking almost up to the top, and it was obviously still vets then. And I remember almost walking up to the top of there and just sitting and probably feeling sorry for myself, but it was something that I used, my next year, and then the next year, and then, just, it's an experience that you have and that you use to make you better. And that's how it was. But yeah, I can 94 Osage wrestling, we should have 2 state titles. And we didn't get either of them, which really stinks, because, I would have really been great to be part of a championship team in high school.
I like what you said though about, I'm sure it sort of helped drive you into the future. And
yeah.
I would imagine, I know I hear this about a lot of like really successful wrestling coaches, is your career, some of the setbacks that you've had, and you've had a lot of successes obviously, but some of the setbacks I've heard people say, like they help you relate, like because you're wrestlers, obviously you're going to have setbacks at times. And so sometimes your experiences on the good and the bad can probably help your team.
Yeah, I would say the setbacks or the adversity or the hardships that you have, man, I think they make you much more relatable, because I think everyone can relate to that, maybe even more than, winning a national title or going to the Olympics. Everyone can relate to probably having an injury or sitting up in the stands and watching someone they beat or making a mistake. And, so I try to make sure that guys understand I didn't do everything perfect. I certainly learned from my mistakes, and I had great people around me, but man, everything wasn't great. And, I know that I relay more to my athletes those things than I do any of the highlights. because like I said, it makes you more relatable, and it's part of life, man. And I know, man, the tough things that I went through have made me better. They've made me more prepared down the road, and they've made me so I know that, man, I can handle anything that comes my way, and sometimes people haven't been tested, right? They haven't been tested, so to speak. They haven't been punched in the mouth, and life's going to do that to you. And so is wrestling. And that's why, I feel like wrestling obviously imitates life incredibly well in a lot of ways. And, the hardships or the losses, that makes you much more relatable. And it's okay, man. That's part of me. And that's part of my story. It's part of who I am, losing as a sophomore, getting hurt as a sophomore, losing as a junior in the last 10 seconds, and then finally winning as a senior. That's part of my story, and I'm proud of it. And I look back on it, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Classic ending on the story, ending up on top your senior year and closing with that championship that's eluded you for 3 years.
Yeah, that was a good feeling.
That's so 2 parts. One, what was involved with your decision, and when did you start contacting the University of Iowa to possibly look at that as a possibility? And at that point in time, Iowa was the powerhouse. Was there even a decision to go anywhere else?
No. It was an easy choice for me. My brother was up in Minnesota at the time, and he could have made it very hard on me. And he probably, if he would have really pushed me hard, he probably could have got me to go to Minnesota because I love my brother and believed in him that much. But, at the time, it was the absolute best thing for me to go to Iowa, and I believed in the place. Recruiting was much different than it is right now. I can remember in the first contact that I got from Iowa, I won in the semis that year, and I beat another guy. I actually beat the guy who beat me in the finals the year before, and I beat him pretty good. And I remember you could make weight the night before. If you guys all remember all this stuff, you can make weight the night before. And I remember I was running. I got my stuff off. I was about to check my weight, and Gable came over. And he kind of looked me up and down and said a couple things, and that's how the recruitment started. And it wasn't anything more than that. He's like, kind of like, all right, this. And if you've been around Gable, like he gives you a look, and he's like, okay, yeah, this I like what I see. And you don't need, for me, I don't need much. If it's Gable, I believe it. And then they made a home visit. I took official visits to Minnesota and Iowa. I knew I wanted to go to Iowa. That was kind of the end of the story. They said it's not the same recruiting process that it is now, and everyone gets involved, and everyone, all this, kids putting out all the stuff that they're getting offered and all this thing. And to me, I went where I believed in and where I thought was going to give me the best opportunity, and money, all that stuff. Everything else was in the back burner. People are like, well, you can say that now it's a coach. It's easy, and it's, no, I would do the same thing. And I would tell a kid, man, like, I understand that college can be incredibly expensive. But man, you think about what you're investing in yourself though. Yeah. And man, the people you're going to be around have a huge impact on that. And if you believe in the people you're going to be around, they can get more out of you. And that's why I tell a kid, man, if you believe in this place and this is who you want to be around, and you're like, it gets you, you get excited. Then that's where you should go. And that's, basically that's all. That's what I did, man. It was a pretty easy decision.
I think I'm stoked up. We don't recruit 51-year-old wrestlers yet.
Just fans, Jay. Just fans.
Okay, yeah, we'll stick to the West Gym sideline. So
yeah.
But I'll talk about recruiting. Just one other thing, like, I just want kids to understand that all all the facilities, all that stuff doesn't do anything for you. I mean, it's great, and I'm not downplaying it. We have nice facilities. We have a lot of those things, but that doesn't get you through tough times. That doesn't help you get to class. That does not help you when, you know what, we just had one, like one of our athletes, unfortunately, one of their best friends passed away. That doesn't help you get through those situations. The people you're going to be around and those people that are there for you and care about you, that's way more important. It's just sometimes hard to see through that. And I get it's hard when, you're 17, 18 years old to see through that too. So I don't know. I mean, I get passionate about, obviously I'm passionate about the sport, but also that, I want kids to find the place they belong. And I think that's really important because, we all want kids to thrive when they get to the college and that they have a great experience if they win or lose, but that they're not bitter about the sport. They want to give back to it and they want to stay involved and they want their kids to be part of it. So I want to keep that cycle going. So I know I'm getting off track, but I just think to me, it's really important.
Yep. Love hearing it, Coach. I like that. So thinking back to your senior year of high school, you win your state title. You're sort of the alpha at least in your wrestling room and in the state of Iowa. What was it like going from top dog to entering the room of hammers at the University of Iowa?
It was every day you're getting your ass kicked, bottom line. And that's, it's part of going to Division I room. The thing that I want that people understand is, we didn't have RTC back then. Kids weren't, it wasn't like I could go and have my hands on college guys, for maybe the couple years before. Some of these kids they're able to be in a college room and around that, years in advance. And I think it helps kids be more prepared. And I think that's why you're seeing more, true freshmen and guys coming out. They're just more ready, than I certainly was at that time. But, the duration, intensity is just a whole nother level. I can tell you, man, that first day when I've talked about Ironside, calling me up and just beating the living tar out of me and pinning me more times than I can remember. Certainly more than happened to me, my high school career. I was fortunate. I had some older brothers that beat me up a little bit, but there was such a big gap that, it wasn't very competitive. But to me, it was then. I remember making a choice. That day because I got a choice right now. Either I'm going to tuck my tail or I'm going to dig in and I'm going to commit to seeing how good I can be. And that doesn't matter. I mean, that means I'm committing to myself, right? I mean, that's I'm committing and I'm going to see this thing through. And I know that means I'm going to take a whole lot of beatings. But I've made that decision. And man, when you do that, you're not kind of sitting on the wall, or you're kind of dipping your toe in. It gives you the best opportunity, gives you the best chance. I see too many kids sometimes, they kind of want to dip their toe in, and you can't dip your toe in this, not Division I wrestling, and I just say that even about life and anything that you're passionate about or want to be great at. You can't dip your toe in and think that you're going to have great results or you're going to grow or you're going to get better. I mean, you got to put yourself out there. But yeah, man, I got my tail kicked up and down all the time. But you started seeing a little bit improvements. You started seeing things happen. I just kept asking questions and try to do everything that the older guys were doing, no matter what it was, even as it got later in the season. I just tried to do everything that they were doing. Because my plan was I'm going to be that guy next year. So I just tried to do everything that those guys did, and I believed in the process. I believed in what was going on. I mean, I totally trusted my coaches and the people I was around. And obviously, it's built on a lot of foundation, right? I mean, you've seen, and, you talked about it. I think at Iowa, maybe there was four maybe straight titles going in, 3 or 4 going into that time. So to me, it was very easy believe in what these guys were telling me. I mean, look at there's proof.
Yeah.
And I believed in that process and that I was going to get my tail kicked, but in short order that was gonna get changed.
I think you kind of answered my next question here, Coach. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. So, okay, I think it'd be your sophomore year. I think, no, your junior year. I think it was. You guys incorporated what I heard, or what we call this fans murderers row up there, right? So you'd have strip matter at 18, right?
Yep.
Or 25. Sorry.
25.
Jergens. Then you were up. Was it Zadok?
Yep, Zadok and TJ.
TJ Williams, and then
Yep.
And then went on from there. I mean, what was the atmosphere at that point? Going in knowing that chances are you're going to have maybe one or two pins coming into it. So, kind of once again, a two-part question. One, what was it like walking into that explosion of a carver? And two, how did you prep? Because I always heard stories of Jody and Eric having a contest to see who could finish their opponent first. So, that kind of kills your prep to warm up, right?
For the most part, competition was, and I don't want to say a day off because that's not. I'm not trying to disrespect opponents, but if you look at some of the guys who are in your room and you're training with, you had some incredible competitors in your room, and I use those guys as a way to get better. Those guys were my resource to improve. And we were competitive with one another, which that helps raise guys level, but in a healthy way. I think that it's important that you have a healthy challenge like that. When I'm going to pin this guy, or I'm going to pin this guy. I think I had heard some stories that that at one time they had put maybe a piece of tape out on the mat, and this might be the mid '80s, early '80s. These guys put a piece of tape out on the mat, and the challenge is to try to pin their opponent on that piece of tape, and whoever did, then at that time those guys might have been going out and partying after. But that's, to me, it gives you confidence. So it's a great thing. Like, hey, this guy's going to go out there and he's going to kick the living dog out of a guy. And you would see it, and you can see what happens sometimes when guys almost come in, I want to say, expecting to get their tail kicked. Yeah. And then they cave in maybe a little bit easier and sooner. And I think that's kind of the atmosphere that you want to create, especially you have a murderer's row where, and then if one guy happened to get beat, if it happens, like, okay, I'm going to be the guy that's going to put things back on track. It was never like, a panic. It's like, man, I know my job. I know what I'm going to go do. And my job is to go wrestle as hard and tough as I can for 7 minutes and score as many points as I can. Bonus points were something that, to me, that's expected. It's what we should do. We should be able to rely on, especially as we got older, like that we're going to get bonus points for the team. And I think that's how all our guys felt. And it was just the styles, even you talk about the styles of those guys. And man, I was prepared because, I got to wrestle all those styles, man, and the high level guys. And that's the room gave me a whole lot of confidence when I went out and competed.
And I like your comment about, if you did have an upset ever, getting them back on track. I think one of the matches I love watching is Oklahoma State with Guerrero. Was that his name down there?
Yeah.
I've never seen a person's will broke so badly that he just put his head down. He didn't want to get off the mat. You were just walking around him pretty much at that point. You had broke his will, I think, to wrestle. So
yeah, that was that was fun. You get to those points, but there's a few moments and memories that, like, man, that was one of them, man. I can remember that's probably the loudest I've ever felt carver. And it was almost like you're almost kind of getting lifted up. Like, it was really loud. And there was a lot that went behind that too. Guerrero Guerrero was a very good wrestler. He ended up being a 3-time national champion. He'd actually, I want to say the year before or 2 years before, he beat McGinnis. I think that might have been to place. So in Oklahoma State, Iowa, it was it's one that gets brought up a lot. That was a fun match of just maybe me being not a very good wrestler at that time, really, but just trying to compete incredibly hard and fight for everything.
Did you feel him crack in the second period? Because I noticed at the very end of the second period with like 10 seconds left, he had let's call it an injury. It took him a while to get back on the mat there. I mean, did you feel him break at that point?
You can smell blood. I mean, obviously, yeah, absolutely. You can see when a guy and feel when a guy's not in their right frame of mind. And that's something that we try to do in the room all the time. I mean, in a way, you try to short circuit a guy, right? You try to, because if he loses that emotional control, man, his energy is going to be drained. He's going to be focused on surviving and not, trying to perform at a high level. So that's something we try to do in the room all the time to each other. So, yeah, I mean, I absolutely felt it. And, now it's just capitalizing on that.
That actually, it's funny. Jay kind of stole my thunder. I was going to ask you a little bit about that match, but he beat me to it. So we've talked to a few of your wrestlers. We've talked to Jay Schwarm. We've talked to Jack Wagner. And then, of course, we like to ask people actually what their favorite wrestling match of all time is, and that your match with Guerrero has come up numerous times. We hear a lot about the legendary Doug Schwab gas tank. Wanted to ask, what's the longest live go that you remember wrestling, and who was it with?
Oh. Well, I'll tell you this: we did this a few times at Iowa, and I've done it a few times at UNI. It's been a few years since we've done it. Called the I Quit match, and I don't. Jimmy had it, and me and Ironside were going, and basically it was till one guy's done. Like till one guy said, "You know what? I've had enough," and I know we were at least 115 in. And people think wrestling, okay, it wasn't like flurry. I mean, there's a lot of hand fighting, a lot of things going on, but we were out there in the battle the whole time. And I want to say it's about an hour 15, hour 20 in, and Ironside got me into a really tough spot. He'd cow catch me, but he had over my head too, and was lifting my head off, and then your shirt's all sweaty, so the shirt is in my mouth, and he's holding me there, and he's holding me there for a while. And I remember Jimmy's like, "Do you want to get off your back?" And I'm like, okay, man, I can't really move. He's got me stuck here. And he's like, you want to get off your back? I'm like, well, I can't really say what I said, but yeah, I want to get off my back. And so he's like, "Hey, Ironside, let him up." So he let me up, and he's like, "You're done." And I remember like, I was like, no, this way, that way, put me back in that position. He's like, "No, I think Jimmy just wanted to go home because I think he's like, we might still be there."
Yeah, you guys aren't quitting.
if that's the case, but we were an hour 15, hour 20. We were the only ones out there still going, and it's just something that man, you tell me you can't pick up your head. I mean, those are little things like, you just got to be able to make it manageable. And I think sometimes guys get overwhelmed by things. And, I just taught me that I can't ever ask for, in this situation, I can't ever ask for help then. Ironside got me to a really tough spot. But, I'd say that's about as long. But I've done similar things to that, in those type of goes. And, to me, that stuff's fun. Those are great memories.
Well, I know it was real recent. Jack Wagner told us that you don't get tired at all.
Here's the thing is, and try to tell these guys, everyone gets fatigued. It's just how you handle it. It's how you manage it. If a lot of guys are really scared of that, right? They're scared of getting tired, losing control, or, so they hold so tight. They never let themselves get to those points. And man, to me, it's a skill, just like anything else. It can be learned. It can be improved. And I've done it for a long time. I've pushed myself for a long time. I still continue to do it because I feel like it gives me an edge in a lot of ways, in not just wrestling, but just keeps my mind sharp and keeps me on edge in a lot of ways. But, trying to get guys over that hump, man, when you make things manageable and bite sized, and I think you can get, you can really get through anything. And we're trying to, what I want to do is I want them to understand, workout is a lot like life, man. And, you can get through it and you get to the other side of it. Maybe you're tired and whooped but it's going to make you better. It's going to make you stronger. You just got to be able to see. Sometimes you got to be able to see through it. So long-winded answer. I absolutely get tired. I'm able to handle and manage it and not wear it as much as those guys, but they'll get better at it.
Yeah. Love it.
Just don't show it. That's what Jurgen's always told you. He goes, get your hands off your head.
I'll tell you, there was a few times that I seen him show it. So just so you know, don't let Jurgens fool you. Come on now.
So you wrap up an incredible collegiate career. At what point do you start talking about the Olympics? And did they have redshirt years back then, Coach?
Oh yeah. I came in. I redshirted my first year.
Olympic red shirts. I'm sorry.
Oh, Olympic red shirts. Yeah, because I want to say Matt Gravy did it. I want to say that he did that year, but he didn't redshirt. He didn't redshirt. They pulled him out that year. So 93, 94, 95, he lost in 95. Yeah, he did take an Olympic. It wasn't as prevalent. No. So there wasn't a thought about Olympic redshirt. I wasn't in 2000. I was not ready to be that guy, but as 2004, 2008, and really give myself time to, beat on your craft and really try to improve that. Yeah. I mean, that it became like, yeah, I can do this. And it certainly wasn't, it wasn't a storybook post-collegiate career, his third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, it wasn't a guy till, maybe, sixth year on the circuit, you finally make a team. So it certainly wasn't easy, but it shouldn't be easy when you're trying to do something that, I think there's going to be 96, this year there'll be 96 freestyle wrestlers that'll make the Olympic team in the world.
Yeah.
It's freestyle, so women Greco, 96, 90, but I'm seeing that it's a very small number. So I'm getting kind of off, but I mean, I know I wanted to wrestle beyond. I was in a great situation, being at Iowa and being around people that had done it, and being, you got a guy like Gable. I can't think of someone who you would, I guess, want to be under more than that guy. Even still today. I mean, probably arguably, I think one, if not, to me, he's the greatest coach in sports. That certainly I've been around. I mean, his record and track record certainly supports that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wanted to compete after, and I was excited about it.
Would you mind telling us about the 2008 trials? Who did you like? Who was your competition that year?
I wrestled Bill Zadek in the Olympic finals, or the Olympic trial finals.
Okay.
I won the Open that year and actually beat him in the finals that year too. Freyer was a guy that wrestled. Actually, Metcalf was in that bracket. Bono. I'm trying to think of, but Bill had won the world championships in 2006. So you're beating a world champion to make a team. So it felt like certainly prepared to, to do something on the world level. I mean, you're going to Olympics not just to be in the Olympics. You're going to win and bring home a gold medal, because that's what you've certainly dreamt about and went through your head your whole time. That's not how it worked out, but it's something that, we talk about some of those things. It's something that I'll continue to be able to use to make me a better coach moving forward.
All right, Coach, I'm going to lighten it up a little bit here for a second. A little bird from PA told me that there's a story about you pushing a car at the Olympic Center.
Oh, unfortunately, we had some car issues. So we were pushing the car. We were out, and then me and Jody Stripmatter, we were going out to an Olympic training camp, and that's out in Colorado Springs. And if you've been in Nebraska is a long state, and something happened with my alternator, and everything started to get dark and dim, and we were on the side of the highway, and it's about 10 o'clock, and we were pushing that car, and semis are buzzing by us and shaking the car back and forth, and that was not a plan. Like, it wasn't part of a workout, but I remember we pushed that thing for quite a ways. And we did get a good workout in, and it was something me and Stripmatter actually remind ourselves of that. I actually just got to see him, a couple of days ago. He was pulling through with his family on his way going out west to take a family trip. And we chuckled about that, and I'm just glad we didn't get blown off the road. But yeah, I do remember we pushed for quite a while.
How'd Stripmatter looking at RV?
It looks great. I mean, I couldn't. When he told me RV, I'm like, oh, you get a little guy pull behind. He's like, no, I got a real life size one. I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it. Like I said, me and my family just went out west, and I know he's going to some of those same places. It's the time you'd be able to make some memories with your family and be able to do that and get away. And, obviously there's been some things that have been taken away with what's going on and this virus, but there's certainly been a lot of things that you've been able to add, and things that I know I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do, or the time that I would have been able to spend with, my family or girls, even go on that trip. So, to say that, to feel sorry for, you missed certain things, but like I said, you added other things. But I don't know if we're ready to have a full family. Like, if we would vacation together in that thing, that might be a little too much, but my wife wants to get one of those things pretty bad. So
you can just borrow Jody's now.
So you represented the U.S. in the 2008 Olympic Games in Sydney. Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned you didn't get the results you were looking for, but what was that experience like? Was it, I mean, that's obviously a lifelong goal. You know what?
I'll tell you this. In some of the stuff I haven't reflected on, till my wife, she asks incredible questions. I've done some things with her, and she's got me to really think about some of that stuff. And I think it's important, just because you want to be able to pass some of that stuff on, obviously, to your team. But, part of the mindset that I've always had is kind of get to the next thing, right? It's like on to the next thing. It's on to the next thing. It's on to the next thing. So, until, really recently, and maybe that tells you a little bit about, like, not saying you're avoiding that stuff, but like, there's certain things that it's crazy that in a way they're still painful, and I don't regret anything. Like I said, at that time, the guy Stadnik, who I got beat by at that time, he's just better than me. I mean, and that's, sometimes that can be hard to admit. Could I say a year later could have been different? Absolutely. Cause I believe in myself. I believe in the progress and that stuff. But, I could tell you that I'll use it, and I continue to use it for our guys that you don't make a moment too big. You don't build it up so much. Like, yeah, you've worked your whole life for it, but to me, if you worked your whole life for something, then you're prepared and ready for it, right? Like, it's not a pressure thing. It's more just being excited for the opportunity. Because I can remember walking out there, and it was like for a little bit, it was like the blood just kind of freaking just got drained out. And you're never thinking that that's going to be the response that you're going to have when you step out there, but that's how it was, and then you got to be able to work through it. But there's some things going back that, and I don't see different with training, but just some things that I would adjust, for a guy being in that situation. And I think our team has done that because, we stayed in the village. We got there, I think, the 6th. The opening ceremonies were the 8th, and then I didn't compete till the 20th, and we were there that whole time. And it sounds like what the last couple Olympic teams they've went off, got out of the village for a week or something and just got in training. I think that would have been a great thing. Not saying that's the difference. I just, in your head, you start, okay, what adjustment would you make? What would you have done? What would you tell, hey, if I'm part of an Olympic coach team, what would you tell them moving forward? What would you tell one of your guys going through it? So that's, I guess, more how I use it. But, man, it's an incredible amount of pride that I have because, you can't ever replace walking out in those opening ceremonies and having USA and chanting USA and having that the whole group of us walking out together. I mean, that's a memory I'll have for the rest of my life, and immense amount of pride that I have in that. But I'll tell you the thing that one of the things that I really took from it is how much the Olympics just resonates throughout the country, how proud everyone is and how proud people are to be from our country, and even with everything that's going on right now in our country, man, still so proud to have been able to represent it, still moving forward, feel the same. But I don't know, there's a few things that I took away from it, but sometimes unfortunately you get bitter, you get so focused on, what the results were and not so much the experience. And I've tried to reflect on the experience more. I don't know if I'll ever feel like good about it, but certainly proud of it because, it was something that, you want to do from a little kid, and I saw it through, and especially kind of how my post-collegiate, my freestyle career went. If you would have saw the start of my career and you went to 2007 and 8 and said I was going to be a world team member and the Olympian, I would have said that I would have had some real long odds. You would have won a whole lot of money, other than myself believing in it. You would have won a whole lot of money on that, but I think that's part of hopefully my story and something that I can continue to relate to our guys. Just continue to never give up on yourself and believe.
Well, it's an unbelievable accomplishment. I think you absolutely have the right to be super proud. I mean, I know we're all proud watching the Team USA guys, every year.
Coach, during and a little bit after your freestyle career, I think 2006 you're at Virginia Tech. Then you came back home to Iowa to help be assistant coach there until you took over UNI. How was that transition going from an elite athlete to coaching, these athletes?
I mean, I'm still working and adjusting. I'm still learning. You go from training for yourself, having control of things, to not. I really, okay. And not that I care about my teammates and I want to give back to them, but really I'm more, I need to take care of myself as well as I can. And when you're a coach, you need to try to take care of all your athletes as well as you can. And it's a challenge, I'll tell you that I know without a doubt that I've grown more these last 10 years being a head coach than I did the 32 prior, because I've had to get out of my comfort zone. I've had to become more open-minded and really that lifelong learner, just that desire to try to always improve. And that doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean don't make mistakes. Certainly do. But I could tell you as I've went, I've been able to make adjustments. You used to have a standard that you certainly keep and you hold your guys to, because you guys understand that there is a certain standard. If you want to be great and you want to be prepared and you want to have the best opportunity to win at this level, there are certain standards and expectations that have to be met. How we get there, and that's probably been the biggest growth that I've had, is probably was very rigid coming in. Here's exactly how you, and probably more skill-wise, this is exactly what you need to do. And, sometimes you try to make everyone like you, and then, okay, well, I have a guy that he's got an 80-inch wingspan. Like, he probably doesn't need to wrestle like me. And as a coach, that's kind of figuring out that puzzle for each guy. But I enjoyed competing. I love coaching because I feel like, you can really have an impact, but being a head coach too, you also, you get to decide the direction of things. Being an athlete, a lot of times it's just, you give a little bit of feedback, but it's just like, coach tells me, I do it and I believe it. And now you have that as a coach too, but man, just thinking through everything. I'm getting very, very deep and putting as much time as we can into trying to make these guys not just better wrestlers, but men. So there's a lot of time and thought put into it. It's not just throwing things at the board hoping, man. It's very intentional in how I'm trying to run the program, the things I'm trying to instill in these guys. And, I guess I get up excited every day to be able to go to work, and, hopefully other people feel that way too, man. And if you don't, then, try to find something that does that for you, because, man, when you feel like you truly have a purpose and you know what it is, and it's, I don't say life is easy, but man, I feel pretty dang fulfilled.
Well, you're doing a heck of a good job, Coach. I know we're huge Panthers fans and like perennial powerhouse these days. I mean, I think it's fair to say you're one of the top programs in the country year in and year out. This past season, you had 7 qualifiers. You had a phenomenal year going. Wanted to ask, how did you hear, kind of when did you hear that the tournament was going to be canceled? And then how did you end up delivering that message to the guys?
Yeah. Well, that Thursday, you started hearing stuff, and I had heard before that it was going to get canceled, And I think right before we were going into practice, the NCAA put it out there, and that's a tough conversation to have with guys. But one thing that we talk about, and we will continually talk about, is how you move forward from things, and that life's not going to be fair. And if you expect it to be fair, then I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how to help guys then. But yeah, I mean, that's a tough, very, very tough conversation to have. One of the toughest ones I've ever had to have with a group. But I'm open and honest with them and just say, hey, this is where we're at. You're not going to get to wrestle in your national tournament. And if you want to cry, we'll cry here. You want to talk, we'll talk here. You want to get up and leave, it's really up to you. But man, what we value in you is way beyond any of your wrestling accolades or results, or, even you go win a national title. And I try to tell them, you go win a national title. That's ultimately not what's going to fulfill you and make you whole. There's got to be something bigger than that. And that doesn't mean I'm not trying to diminish that, that what was taken away from him, because I hurt, man. I said, I cried too, and we got some guys that got up and talked, and a bunch of guys cried because it means that much to them. They invest so much. And, when you have teammates who aren't even wrestling that, to me, are crying, man, it shows how much they care about each other. And that's something for me I'll continue to use moving forward too. Like, if you guys remember that, you remember, we just don't take things for granted, whatever it is. So as painful as some of that stuff was, when we kind of talked, you guys asked me before about kind of setbacks and adversity. And this is one of those things, man. This is one of those things that, to me, we've been tested these last about 6 months, and I think it's going to continue for a while, but we get to decide if we use it for good and if we get better from it. And I can tell you, I've been incredibly proud of our seniors and how they handled it, because I'm not sure I would handle it that well. They've moved forward in life, and I know, and I'm sure it's kind of like grief, right? I'm sure it comes up once in a while. I was going through my cubby in my house and the NCAA brackets that I had printed out. I was just looked at them, and I'm like, and you start going through every match in your head. But more just, I hurt for the guys that lost that opportunity, because they've earned that. And I wanted to see what they got to do in that year, because, even the seniors, but we had a freshman, we had a sophomore, we had a junior. I don't know if next year's guaranteed for them either. So when you're prepared and you're ready and you have an opportunity, you got to make the most of it. And I think that's what's most painful, is for me, there was no closure for those guys, because they didn't get to go on their terms. But how they use it moving forward is on their terms, and I've been incredibly proud of, from what I've seen from Max and Bryce and Jay and why am I blanking? I shouldn't be blanking on our guys and Taylor, because Taylor's still here training, and how those guys are, I know it's going to make them better moving forward. And, that's all you can ask, man, that you've prepared these guys for life.
I think that is one of the key points, Coach. We interviewed Jay Schwab, was about 2 months ago, and we asked this question of him, and I think that's where I think we got even more respect for you, even other than a wrestler and a coach, but just as a leader, nurturing all these young men to another level, is that they've come to terms with that and accepted it, and know that it'll make them better in the long run. So, yeah. So, of them 7, looks like you have 3 of them wrestlers that are coming back this next year. How's the team looking or shaping up?
I'll be able to tell you a lot more when we're able to get hands on them, around them. I could tell you guys have done a good job this summer. You got to see them, because you can see what a guy's body looks like. You can tell if they've taken care of themselves, and we've had a lot of contact, a lot of Zooms. You're still giving guys, hey, this is what I feel like you need to do. But to me, it's been a great opportunity for them to really take it to another level as far as holding themselves accountable, right? Like, coach isn't watching over, because it can be easy if coach is kind of, not saying it's easy, but okay, coach is running me through things. Okay, well, coach has put this together. Oh, well, he's looking over this. Like, no, you have to take ownership and responsibility of your career. And we had guys do that over this break. And that, to me, it revealed that a lot. And some of these guys that, hey, man, I don't care if it's not convenient for me, if I have to drive somewhere, if I have to go put mats in a garage, I will figure it out and I will get it done. And time's moving. And that's one thing I tell our guys, time is always moving. What are you doing with it? Because if you're sitting waiting, someone else, and then maybe not someone else, you can put someone else in your head that he's freaking running full speed in front of you, but also that you're just standing still. You're not improving. So I don't know. I'm excited to be able to get back with them. We did. We lost a great senior class, and I told those guys their legacy is even what they did, how they elevated the program, but now it's even, to me, it's how they left it. and that these guys that behind them, how they move it forward into another level. And I know that we have a group in there that is ready to do, is capable of it. And I mean, they're working every day to make sure that happens. So whenever we get to wrestle, if it's January, whenever it starts, we will be prepared and ready, and guys will be excited. I think we're all hopefully never going to take wrestling for granted again, or any sports, for that matter, not way beyond wrestling, but just, and just how excited these guys are. Hey, I want to practice hard. Hey, coach, I can't wait till we have a hard wrestling practice. I can't wait to be able to compete. Like I want them to continue to hold and grasp that, because, it's fresh right now, but you get into January and maybe you have a loss or two. Can you keep that? Can you keep that enthusiasm and excitement? And if we continue to do that, then we're going to be in great shape as a team. I know from what I've seen and what I've heard, we're not getting a whole lot of publicity or love, so to speak, but we'll go earn that.
From a selfish fan's perspective, I just hope that there's enough capacity and seating in West Gym, the COVID regulations, because I want to come watch for sure.
I could tell you this, that I would say more than likely we'll probably be in McLeod for those duels. Just from, we love the West Gym, but we had a great crowd at Oklahoma State last year. Our schedule right now is we'll have Oklahoma State back in Cedar Falls this year. We'll have Iowa State in Cedar Falls this year. From the Big 12 duels are the ones that I know are going to happen. We'll have Oklahoma and Northern Colorado. So, those are 4 quality teams that are coming in. So, if we get a few less opportunities and it's not in the West Gym, then we just got to get everyone to show up and pack that McLeod. Then, whatever capacity is, let's get it to that capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Coach, we have reached, we call it our OT sudden death questions.
Okay.
Most of them have something to do with wrestling, but some of them don't have anything to do with wrestling. So our first question is, if you could go back in time to give yourself advice, when would you go back to, and what advice would you give yourself?
I'll tell you this. I don't know if I would. I mean, I hate to say, I'm not saying that in like, hey, I've done everything perfect or right. But I believe life and certain things have happened the way they should. And do I want to go back and mess with that? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if I sat and thought, and, there'd probably be a few situations that I'm like, hey, you know what, stop, if it's stop feeling sorry for yourself, or if it's this or that, or, hey, you're only going to have X amount of time left with somebody, it might be something along those lines. But I'll go with it right now. I would leave it as is.
I love that answer.
How about your favorite wrestling movie?
I'm trying to think of which ones. Well, and I don't know if you can count it as a wrestling movie. I count it as a wrestling movie, but Competitor Supreme was one of the, then that was kind of, one of those before any of the other ones. Like that was like the original. Vision Quest is obviously one I grew up with, but Competitor Supreme was, and I know they've redone it, they brought it back out, but man, that got me fired up, and it seemed like that was ahead of its time, kind of what they did. So I'm going with that.
I love it. Love it. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
Oh man. I'm trying to think of who. There's some things I'd like to solve or cure. I like Incredible Hulk because he can just crush everything. So I'd go with him.
All right, Coach, favorite wrestling match of all time?
The Guerrero one's a fun one. That one gets brought up a whole lot. I'll tell you that, and it might be my junior year, as defending national champ, got beat, had to come back in the backside, and we were in a battle with Iowa State. And so one of my favorite matches that's not my own, I mean, I could tell you in West Hand beat the living tar out of Henoch, and Henoch had beat the living tar out of him earlier in the year. But if Iowa State wins that match, they pretty much win the title. So I remember, because I'm getting ready, I won my match to place, and they were holding all the matches. I remember watching him just beat the living – I mean, he did. He beat the living hell out of him. And I remember that fired me up so much. And then I went on and won the next 3 matches, and I then got bonus points in a couple of them. Actually pinned the next guy. So that next match might have been one of my favorites, because it's just like, man, let's go. This is because you hopefully you find some other things that inspire your team, and he certainly did in that moment. I don't know, that one came to mind for some reason. It's definitely one of my favorites.
That's awesome. Favorite food, and then where should we go out for dinner after a Panther meet?
Favorite food? I like all kinds of pizza, but I eat a couple of bananas probably every day. And people are like, when they say food, like I say banana, they're kind of like, that's not really, I don't, maybe consider that a food. I mean, it's a food, but I'm saying a meal. A meal-wise, I mean, Mulligan's is a great place. They support the heck out of us in UNI wrestling, so go there quite a bit. Go there or go to Single Speed, because sometimes we have our post-meet socials over there. So those 2 places. And if I had, I mean, I really enjoy sushi. I don't eat it a ton, but me and my wife enjoy being able to go out and get that. So that would probably be one of my favorite meals.
Okay. And I think is Single Speed the brewery that makes the Gable?
Yeah,
beer?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave Morgan. Dave Morgan he wrestled at UNI. He's a state champ from New Hampton. And like I said, in Ryan Bennett, he runs Mulligan's. Those guys have supported us from day one. So they have great food. They support wrestling, and I think wrestlers and wrestling people always want to support people who support wrestling.
No doubt about it.
All right, Coach, greatest Olympic wrestler of all time.
Can we go American and non-American?
Sure.
Well, Satiev's got 3 Olympic golds. So, and actually in Beijing, I get to watch him win his 3rd one. So I'm going Satiev, non-American, even though I don't like to, you got to give respect where it's due. American, I'm going with John, because he's got 2 Olympic gold medals. And to me, up until this point, he's the greatest American wrestler. I think there's some guys that are certainly going to challenge for that, and are gunning for it. But right now, he's the king.
All right, so who do you have at 57 kilos for the next U.S. Olympic team?
Oh man, if Joe Cologne gets himself down to weight, I'm going with Joe. He's a obviously UNI guy, but I know what he's capable of. I mean, he can score a lot of points on anybody. He gets on top, he can turn anybody. If you remember the last 57 kilo representative, he was able to turn guys. Yep. And Joe's got, to me, as equal gut as Dennis does. So he can score a lot of points. He can put guys in a lot of positions and score points in a hurry. So I'm going with Joe.
All right, Coach. Chocolate or vanilla ice cream, and we've always heard of wrestlers sneaking into Carver for a Carver cone or a late night workout. Did you ever have a sneak into the wrestling room?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, it was pretty much open whenever you needed to, and then if it wasn't open, there was ways to get in, and you figured out those ways. Is that there? Where they would bring the cables in, for the TV, when they'd have the games televised and that stuff, they had a big black door and you could crawl through that. And then they started locking that, and then you start figuring out how to maybe block another door. But if you needed to get a workout in, you could usually figure out and find a time. And I think that's a great thing, though. Like if I'm breaking in to try to get better, I don't think that's a bad thing. But yeah, no sneaking in for Carver Cones, but for a lot of workouts.
Coach, do you have a favorite football team?
Oh, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Fishing or golfing, Coach?
Oh, fishing.
And do you have a favorite vacation destination?
I'll tell you, like you said, me and my family just got back from out west. The Tetons it was really, really cool. Awesome to see. So, I'd say, I unfortunately haven't taken many family trips or vacations. I'll certainly make sure I do it every year now. I think it's very important that, you get that time with your family. But I'd say out west, just being able to go out there and explore. And, we got to spend some time with Mike Zadek. So he's got an awesome area out there. So I'd say that's probably just out west, man, would be our destination.
All right, Coach, we reached our final question. We always wrap it up with what is your favorite quote to inspire our wrestlers?
There's a great one by Mark Mesnick. And the first start of it is the mind tires before the body. And then there's much more to it than that. But, to me, that's an incredible quote because, your body's capable of anything. Your mind if it can will it and dictate it and you're able to control it, then I think you're capable of doing about anything. There's tons of quotes, but that one's certainly one that comes to my mind.
Well, Coach, thank you for your time tonight. I really appreciate you meeting with us. And we look forward to following the Panthers through the next season and see some national titles.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. And let's get people over. Well, I always say West Gym. If it's the Cloud Center, get over and support. And, St. Louis, I know everyone's a little bit concerned. Are we going to have a season? And, I know we're planning and preparing and training for it. And, that's all we can do. That's what we can control. But I know everyone's looking forward to wrestling being back. And I appreciate you having me on, and certainly look forward to seeing you guys again.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this podcast with your friends. Give us a like and a follow on Facebook and Twitter at QCA Wrestle. And keep an eye out for more QCA wrestling content coming soon.